and it's just very, very beautiful. But beach actually around here don't normally do terribly well, because they're sort of a more of a lighter land, shallow rooting tree.
John, firstly tell us about your farm. How big?
Okay, yes, it's about 650 hectares, and we converted it to organic in 1999. And at this year we're growing oats, wheat, spelt, heritage wheat, the only crop of rape that's ever been grown in the village of Shimpling, which I'm incredibly proud about. And we've also got a field of vetches, so lots of different things depending on what's happening in the market that year.
Stuart, you're also organic.
Yeah.
How big are you, and what are you doing?
I'm nowhere near as big as John, well, physically possibly, but from a land perspective, nowhere near as big as John. So we're 120 hectares down in Hertfordshire, so right next door to Rothamsted. And over the years, we've grown a good variety of crops. This year, though, we are predominantly milling wheats, oats, and quite a lot of rye this year as well. There's been really good demand for our rye over the last few years. And then we've got some cattle and sheep as well.
John, you converted to organic, so why did you do that?
So it was 1999, and I think wheat was £74 a tonne, oilseed rape was £115 a tonne, and we just weren't making any money out of conventional farming. So my initial conversion was purely financial. Having said that, I always had a very strong sort of conservationist sort of bent, and I was chairman of Suffolk Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group, and if I was going to diversify in any way as far as the farm was concerned, to have a sort of a more nature-friendly way of farming actually sort of fitted that bill. So it was financial, but I did have a sort of a want to increase the biodiversity on the farm as well.
That's really interesting, actually, John, because I've actually only recently discovered that my grandfather actually was a founding member of the Hertfordshire FWAG. And actually, but for us, it was very much, our conversion was a couple of years before John's. Ours was purely economically driven, but actually it was also a huge dose of luck. So we didn't convert the farm wholesale. We were actually approached by a local water mill, Redbournebury Mill. I think, John, you've been there with Dad. Yes. Over the years, who were interested in some local grain, but they wanted it to be organic, and we thought, well, look, we need to do something else. We couldn't expand. We're surrounded by big institutional landlords. Our ability to get bigger, we needed to do something different. So we thought, well, let's take the plunge. And actually just started growing wheat for that mill. We then started growing for many more mills, but purely for us it was economic. But interestingly, we did also have that sort of environmental nature, as I say, FWAG background to the farm, but very much economically driven. And I think actually quite a lot of people are in that same boat. But interesting, once you've made the conversion, it is quite interesting to see what happens in terms of biodiversity, etc.
The only thing I would add is that at the time when we converted, I was doing absolutely all the spraying on the farm. So I was wedded to this thing, and I never seemed to be able to get off it. There used to be a fax that came through every Friday from my agronomist, basically saying, if you don't get this on, you might as well forget about harvest. And and it was at a time when sort of, first of all, we were spending more and more money on inputs, and they were working less and less well. And so that was another thing for me, in the way that I sort of felt that sort of high output farming was a sort of a busted flush, and I wanted to, which is why we only converted half the farm to start off with, to see actually financially how well we would do with it, but also how well nature would do on the farm after we'd gone through our first 6-year rotation.
Given your time again, both of you, would you still do it? Would you still go organic?
Well, I mean, I've gone sort of, even though it's a financial decision, I've gone completely native on it. I have to say that I've never enjoyed my farm more. And just simple things like sort of walking through a crop of beans and nipping the top out of one and just eating it. I just don't think I would have done that if I'd sprayed it with something. And so I sort of feel that the farm is of a healthier, happy place since we've been organic. And I'm sure that other people farming non-organically would have the same experience, but for me it's been a real thing.
I don't know, I really struggle with this question actually, Charles. So first of all, it was my father rather than me, so if I had my time again, I still would have had no influence on it, so it wouldn't matter. I think at times, and I've got very frustrated actually at times with some of the organic movement, some of the high priests, as I've described them in the past, who I don't think actually have done organic farming a lot of favours over the years. I think at times I want to farm my farm the way I think it should be farmed. I'm certainly enjoying my farm more than ever before, John, exactly like you. When I go out in the morning for a walk round, the farm is an absolute delight. And I think however I'd farm, I would certainly farm with lots of the organic principles. And I think interestingly, what we're certainly seeing these days, Charlotte, I think those high priests aren't there to the same extent. I think actually what I most enjoy about farming these days is taking the best of all systems. So actually taking the best of organic, taking the best of science, taking the best of evidence, and then applying that to my farm. So I honestly don't know if I would. I probably would, because I think that would be the natural place I'd come to. But it is something I do ask myself occasionally.
Let's go and discuss some of all that. And sit down.
Sounds good.